According to the national budget, which was read on Thursday, the stock of public debt for Uganda is projected at 116 trillion Ugandan shillings by the end of June 2025. The Finance Minister, Honorable Mataya Kasaija, who read the budget, also stated that Uganda's debt to GDP ratio is estimated at 51.26%, which is consistent with the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility. He noted that Uganda's debt is sustainable and is expected to remain so in the medium term to long term. Observers are, however, concerned about the rate of growth of Uganda's public debt, but they also question the country's strategy to maintain its sustainability. This is the Limelight. Good evening and welcome to the program. This is the Limelight. My name is Prince Apollo, and speaking about Uganda's public debt, we connect with Honorable Geofrey Ekanya, and Honorable Ekanya is a member of the Forum for Democratic Change, member of Parliament for Tororo North County. But he has also served as the Shadow Finance Minister in Parliament.
And Chairperson Public Accounts.
Chairperson Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. Welcome to the program, Honorable. Let's go straight, Honorable, to the issue of Uganda's public debt, which has been increasing drastically. And from the minister's statement, he says it is still sustainable. What is your general opinion about Uganda's public debt?
According to the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility of debt, in terms of borrowing within our budget and within our resource envelope, government presented that Charter of Fiscal Responsibility we debated and discussed. To the best of my knowledge, we agree that the debt to GDP should be below 51%. In fact, about 3 years ago, we had agreed should not exceed the East African standard was 50% of the GDP. But as of now, the minister has, with that parliamentary approval, I think, revised the debt to GDP to 52, because our debt is, I think, 100, according to Minister of Finance, 16 trillion.
Yeah, true.
But the number seems not to be matching up. We have what we call contingent liabilities. If you add contingent liability resulting from court litigation, resulting from contracts which government makes commitment, resulting from tax expenditure administration, resulting from abuse of commitment control system, borrowing indirectly from private sector, where private sector awarded contracts, then government does not pay on time. All that, you add it up, you sum it up. We are in a bundle of 125 trillion shillings. That's where we
So, Honorable, you believe that our public debt is bigger than what has been
declared. And normally we help Minister of Finance and government. We tell them what is factual, because they do not want to declare everything. And then tomorrow they come back to us, they say, these figures, we are not verifying them, because we have the resource which undisbursed loan which the government of Uganda has approved, and we are paying commitment fees. You put all that, because now what I presented 116 is, I think, what government has in the basket spent. But if you have 16 trillion shillings which government has signed, committed, paying commitment fee, it is part of the stock. Of course, they will argue that our stock should be what is disbursed. But true, unless this debts which Parliament has approved cabinet is cancelled, the 16 trillion shillings. And that forms part of the figure you had the minister presenting the budget of 72 trillion budget. It includes part of that 16 trillion shillings of undisbursed fund, because they were borrowed either for schools, for health centers. When you hear the Minister of Finance saying we are going to build this number of seed schools. It is under the World Bank project, and the ADB, if they talk about building roads, it's part of the roads here. Some of these roads have been mentioned for 3 years. They are under multi-year budgeting process. and it takes time, like the Impigi Express. All some of these roads have been there, and government every year keep reading the same figure for those roads. So it forms part of the budget of 72 trillion shillings. Because the real resource available is out of our resource, 32, 34 trillion shillings, to which now government is going to use part of it for salary and so forth. So this debt, assume every financial year we collect 34 trillion shillings, which we hope URA should collect. And you have roughly a debt of 120 trillion shillings. So, which means Uganda is in debt for the revenue to collect for the next 4 years. You get my
I get it.
Just do roughly.
We need at least 4 more years
to pay the debt. When we are not spending anything, not committing any debt.
Yeah.
But you see, that's very dangerous. We just pray that we remain stable. Our import receipts does not exceed the export receipts. As of now, we see the shilling is becoming stronger. The exchange rate is moving from 3,700 to 3,650, 3,600, even 3,500. That shows that the imports are going to be cheaper, but has a negative impact that our export becomes more expensive and unattractive. But by and large, in terms of the region and Africa, yes, the numbers at macro level, I think we are one of the third or the fourth growing country in Africa, and so which is very good. At macro level, global figure, it shows that our shilling is very stable, and our capital account, Uganda, is attractive because you can bring your dollar in sacks or in an aeroplane. You invest, you trade, you open forex bureau, you make profit, you're allowed to take. That does not happen in many countries in Africa. You go to most of these countries, there's a restriction. We also have good refugee policy. Refugees are coming here.
They bring in
dollars. There is also trading. The Congolese, the Sudanese are trading here in oil, in minerals, which is very good. We also have good depots of gold in Tira. So mineral trading is very good. We have a good policy in terms of oil. But by and large, the people of Uganda are not feeling this good policy because down there, teachers, parents still have to pay money for their children to be in this free universal primary school. Parents have to pay money for food. They need to buy uniform. They have to buy books. They need to buy shoes. And the classroom ratio, like in my constituency, you find 120 kids sitting in one classroom with one teacher, the toilet ratio. There is no curriculum activity. So there are all these challenges as much as we are talking about macro, global, rosy picture. But the people are not feeling this at micro level. In hospitals, we have put money for drugs, but it's all about 30 to 20% of that is received. Some disappear in Kampala here, then others on the way when it reaches the hospital. In fact, Ugandans now consider you are going to government hospital, they will examine you and make a recommendation for you to go and buy drugs.
From private health facilities.
Yes. So, and our people need basic. Then they will put their 1 trillion shillings for PDM. But at the end of the day, there's no leakage. With the production, post-harvesting, handling to regulate quality to avoid wastage. You know, if you planted cassava, you grow tomato, you are growing cabbage, you are growing watermelon or pineapple. A serious government, even during Obote's time, government needed to have cold storage to support the farmers in post-harvesting handling. And then you do grading and quality control. Then you do market access. So the farmers' work is to produce, and the country was zoned. That the people in the east were going to do cotton, people in the north were going to do sim, people in Uganda were doing coffee, people in some part were doing beef. You get me? The country was zoned not to have a current arrangement of Katogo. So you give people PDM, everybody's growing tomato, everybody's growing cabbage, everybody's doing sweet potato. So who will buy what and who's in charge of marketing? And then you have price fluctuation. Those days, simple commerce, we had what we call price stabilization fund. Government puts a fund that now during a bump harvest, government will buy the stock at a price that farmers don't lose and store it. so that it stabilizes price, a farmer does not lose. The countries that grew up, the Asia, Korea, which President Museveni talked when he was assuming power, that it took 40 years for those countries to move from a third world country to a first world country. Now he has been in power for 40 years. We are not even in a second world state. Poverty is still clear because those countries planned for their people a formula which is an egg, larva, pupa, and adult. They know this number of children will be born. These kids born, they need this classroom teacher ratio.
They plan accordingly.
So from primary 1, they will need this for secondary. They will need this for university. When they finish university, where shall we place them in terms of job?
Okay.
How many will go to private sector? If they are going to ride border, they will ride border for 2 years. From there, they will form association and enter into cottage industry. So that is part of the gaps.
That's what is lacking. So you said there is at a macro level, the picture is so rosy, and at grassroots it is so different. Is that in any way connected with the swallowing public debt?
Yes, it is, because once consumers consume manufactured goods, then they're able to pay tax. And when they're able to pay tax, then URA can collect more revenue.
Oh, okay.
Now, the advantage why I'm talking at macro level, because of the idle opportunity of the regional market. Because in Congo, there's less manufacturing, there's instability, but they need the goods and service. South Sudan, they are not in serious manufacturing. Because of the macroeconomic policy, it's cheaper for some Kenyan industries to come here to Uganda to do the manufacturing. So because of that, you have a big picture at macro level. But the market to consume the goods which Kenyan industries have come here is limited because the people are poor. Their cassava cannot generate or the vehicles to have the necessary purchasing power to boost production.
And from the minister's statement, government is implementing some domestic revenue collection strategies so as to increase domestic revenue and also reduce on borrowing. How would you find that strategy working?
Yes, domestic mobilization strategy is good. And of course, saving is a good initiative. But of course, saving should lead to production.
Okay.
Government, serious government, they guide people in investment space. You don't just allow Uganda and every Ugandan to own a border. Because that space now gets congested. Because people get loan, then they go to border, they cannot pay. A serious government, that's why in every country there's what called trading license. Trading license is not for collecting revenue. To say the space for available for people to ride border in Kampala, you can only accommodate 1,000. The space for people to own a taxi in Uganda can only take 50 taxis. There is space for people to open up a mineral water company because of the consumer market and the space. You can only have 10 people manufacture mineral water. So when you guide government in terms of the investment space available and using trading license and other regulatory policy, then people who get financing from the bank, they invest in mineral water industries. Then they either invest in taxis, then they know that within 2-3 years there will be return of investment, then they migrate. But because our government, and once people do that, then the economy can grow because government, they employ more people, you collect more tax. Our government allows like people importing things from China. Once they make their money, people are building malls everywhere. But it is all a ground floor, and the first floor people are using. But second, third, fourth, it is empty. That is called dead capital. All the money for these malls. Suppose we are saying Uganda imports drugs from Europe, or clothes. We guide this for technical and they say now put a textile factory here, and the textile would export. Then more people would be growing cotton. And then when we grow cotton, we collect more revenue and even export. That will help us to increase our tax to GDP, to even 16, 17, 18. And that will help us to pay more debt, and then the debt will reduce. As of now, we have debt roll over. We have a debt of 22 trillion shilling, which is due to have been paid. We are rolling over. We are instead even now borrowing to pay interest rate. Secondly, our debt is also a result of unnecessary, exorbitant cost of public administration.
Yeah.
You have huge administrative, the president and state house, too much luxury. Parliament's too big, too many RDCs. We are not very productive class. This country can only accommodate 200 MPs. You need the president to have a limited combo. If the president is going to Soroti, the army will be deployed from Kampala to Soroti. Covert and covert. That's all.
That's huge public expense.
Yes, huge. And yet we have ISO, we have PISOs in the village, we have GISOs, we have the RDCs in all those districts. But they don't trust those ones. They will deploy PGB.
Or SFC.
SFC along the entire road. Then what are these security apparatus in all these districts doing?
Okay. Honorable, another strategy is that has been proposed is mobilizing lenders like IMF or World Bank. How do you find that also?
You see, the World Bank and IMF non-concession lending were moved from that least developed countries, where now that concessional lending is given to us. We are now at a level where we qualify to pay. We get very small of concessional lending. Secondly, there's crisis in Europe, there's crisis in Washington. The non-concession lending is also limited.
So it may not be possible.
It is not possible for us to get, as well, that would be the best, but that non-concession lending is not available. They put restrictions and conditions.
So from you, Honorable, and from your experience, now that you say we may not be able to access non-concessional loans,
yes, all non-concessional loans that we need to finance the budget.
Because even the president declared we are no longer a least developed country in his speech. And now also the other first strategy of mobilizing domestic revenue to reduce on borrowing. You said that
it has challenges.
Also has challenges.
We may not achieve, and we can achieve 60%. Yes.
So how best now can we sustain
what we need to do?
This public debt.
Physical discipline. The unit cost of implementation of project in this country is highly exaggerated to a tune of 300%. For example, our investment in the oil sector, the unit cost of food, we are quoting the price of food of Sheraton and Serena for the workers eating at the oil wells. Even the team, the consultant who come here in the country, the price which is quoted in their expenditure recovery is Sheraton and Serena. So we are the way we live, even the Americans, Europeans don't live. The unit cost per kilometer of a road here is exaggerated.
Yeah, true.
Compensation for land is exaggerated. The people falsify figures. It is financial indiscipline, and we do not have what we call allocative efficiency. When we are allocating money for building a hospital, for building schools, the cost is exaggerated. If you compare that a private sector will build 2 classroom blocks and use 50 million shillings, government will spend 100 million shillings.
Honorable, we are actually running out of time, but are you optimistic that we will manage this rising public?
We will manage. The people of this country can survive on agriculture, on the gift of nature. You see, we are growing at 4-5%. Even a street kid can survive and grow. So the growth is not the work of the state only. It is the work of God and nature. That's why people can grow in the street and even become more resilient. So we are going to manage. I think government is tightening it the belt. The government need to downsize. Government need to reduce expenditure. And we need to reduce example. Most of this item in the budget, they will not receive money. No, our budget performance is about 70%, but government will read that is 100%. Yes, because we are unable to collect the money. So some items are deferred to next year. That's why you see the same road is ready 2 years, the same school is ready next year. To give people hope. So in terms of surviving, Uganda is blessed. There is food.
We will survive.
We will move. This debt will reduce when we get maybe oil money. And finally, the debt will go down when we downsize government. So all is not lost.
All is not lost. And finally, from what was we were told when rationalization, the bills on rationalization were being presented, they were saying we would save some money. And what is your quick opinion?
Only what we have said is reducing bureaucracy, because we had executive director some of them would not listen to the minister and PS. Now you have reduced the PS can order on guidance of the minister. So that bureaucracy has reduced. But in terms of saving, there's not much saving.
We're planning to save at least 1 trillion.
Maybe what we have saved, these EDs used to have vehicles. Yeah. Maybe that has reduced, because some of the same EDs have remained.
Within those entities.
Yes, have remained within those, because entities were not abolished. The ones which were merged, I'm sure maybe we have saved about 20%.
Oh.
Yes.
Finally, from you, your final comment on the trajectory the economy is taking.
No, in terms of, I say that macro level.
And your final recommendation.
At macro level and global level, the policy framework is good. Our challenge is implementation. Uganda is one of the countries in the world with the best policy. But in terms of implementation, we are poor. We are scattered. We need to zone the country. We need to specialize and take advantage that we have in this region. This Uganda is supposed to be the South Korea.
True.
True. Because we are in the heart of Africa. And that heart of Africa is in Tororo. You know, Tororo is supposed to be like the Dubai. You come from Mombasa, you reach Tororo. You come from Dar es Salaam via Lake Victoria, Majangi, you reach Tororo. You want to go to South Sudan from Tororo. You want to DRC, Tororo via Rua. You want to go to Kampala, you know. Tororo. So that's why the heart of standard gauge in Uganda is in Tororo. And I want to tell investors the potential is huge.
Thank you so much, Honorable Geofrey Ekanya, Member of Parliament for Tororo North County, former Minister for Minister for Finance
and Treasurer General of FDC.
Treasurer General of FDC. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And we hope for the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, our viewers, and we will continue to look at how the situation unfolds as the new financial year kicks in. My name is Prince Apollo. Thank you so much for your time. Until next Friday in another edition of the LimeLight. God bless you and God bless you guys.
Download the Salt Media app from the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store.